Hey, what's up, everyone? Today I have the Lee Lerman Sigma 6. Um, I waited around a week before doing this video because I've never actually tried a Lee Lerman before, and I wanted to do a review where I guess it's, when you pass the initial honeymoon phase and talk a little bit more about the maker because, if you guys saw the last video, this was about 6 years in the making. So ever since Lee first came out with the Sigma, before that he only had the Hydra model, and when Lee came out with the Sigma, I immediately, jumped on it, but I didn't know it was going to be such a long wait. And, finally it's here. So I wanted to talk a little bit about the knife and the process that Lee makes it in and why it actually took 6 years. Because I think in those 6 years, he has spent quite a lot of time developing and getting better. And, he has come up with this new finishing, which is his own finishing. He calls it liquid tie. And, one of the reasons that it takes so long for Lee to make knives is because he makes them one by one. Most custom makers, even if they are custom makers, they'll make it in batches. So let's say, if you look at many other makers, and let's say they have 2, 3 models, they will make, those 2, 3 models, but at the same steps at the same time, like the frame, cutting out all the frames, doing the heat treat at the same time, so it saves a lot of time. But Lee does it one by one, and he spent, I think on mine, a little over maybe a month and a half. So, I guess if you have like 100 orders, you can imagine that it's gonna take quite a few years if you, take a month and a half per knife. Even something that looks deceivingly plain like this. Lee also doesn't use CNC. He has manual machines, manual lathes, manual mills, and the finished work is very, very, very nice. So let's walk through it. The blade I chose to have Damacore mirror polished, and the reason was because, well, first of all, I wanted to have his liquid tie finish on the frame because it was something that's unique to him, and I really, really like the way that it looks. I know that quite a few people has tried the liquid tie finish now, and I think it's still something very special. It's very smooth. Is it scratch resistant? Kind of, yes. But it can still get scratches. I've carried this a little bit, and there are a few very, you can't really see the lines, but it can scratch a little bit. But when you look at it, you can't really see it at all unless you really scrutinize. It's just a very nice polished finish. You would think that it's also very slippery, but it's also it's not too bad. I think it's quite okay. It's not grippy, but it's also not like too slippery for a polished look. As for the blade, Lee learned how to do the mirror polish, or he got advice from Todd Begg, and we know that he makes some of the best mirror polish finishes. In the tactical knife market, and Lee is no exception. He also pulled off this half micron polish, so just beautifully done. And one of the things I really love is the etching, because normally it's quite difficult. I'd actually tried to get a few makers to do this, but a half micron mirror polish and etching the blade so that it comes out to a darker edge instead of a lighter edge, it's not so easy. And a lot of the Damacore ones come out looking a little a little not as crisp. Like some of the lines are faded, but in here, all of the lines are super crisp, super, nice contrast between the mirror and the etching. And when I saw that, not many people has done it before, so just astonishing the way that Lee was able to do it. And I think it was a really nice contrast again between the very clean frame and having a little bit of pattern on the blade. So yeah. Next is the inlays. I wanted a clean build, so again, I put in the mother of pearl inlays or had him put in on the pivots on both sides, on the screws as well. And actually, these screws are quite special because it's the first time he inlaid rods into the mother of pearl. Because if you think about it, if you need to screw it apart and it's only made out of pearl, it's going to be quite brittle, fragile. So he actually press fitted, these rods inside. And this is the smallest piece that he's ever manufactured in-house. And actually, in person, they're super small. I didn't expect it to be this small. Like on camera, it can look, decently large. But then in person, this thing looks tiny. I'd lose it right after I make it because it's so small. But yeah, I think that's a cool touch. The inlay on the back spacer, just perfectly done. On the butt as well. When I asked him to show me some whip pictures, he actually sent me, pictures of like just random pieces of titanium, about like 5 of them, all inlaid with mother of pearl. And he said he was just practicing so that he can get my part perfect. And that's just really, really cool because, he had to do a few tests fitting, and they all look perfect, by the way. I'm not sure why he needed to do so many, but the outcome that he got on this one is also perfect. I mean, it's just seamless. You can just see that on here, and it's not easy to do because mother of pearl cracks really easily. You can see also many good makers cracking a ton of pieces of pearl before they're able to get it just right. So it can be quite tedious, and really glad that Lee pulled it off perfectly. As for the inlays on the pivot, it's actually a little bit sunken in, which is really cool. It's not like right on the surface because you can see the surface is really contoured. So yeah, having it inset inside is actually even more difficult than doing it flush on this side. So yeah, let's check out the some of the lines that, even though the build may look simple, these things add to the complexity and to the looks of it. And if you've ever tried drawing a knife for yourself, you would start to notice that why does it look so bland and ugly? It's because it's missing these details. For instance, this top swedge on the frame, really, really elegant. Crosses the screw right in the middle. That's a lovely touch. Check out this side. You see, even the blade is a triangle. The spine of the blade is a triangle, which is a detail that's really cool. It's also very thick on, the frame part where you hold it, and it slims down, tapers down to, a slimmer point. Again, very, very nice detail. The core of the blade, you can see, goes right in the middle. So he perfectly centers the core throughout the blade. Again, a lot of makers can also get lazy when it comes to this, finding it hard to focus on camera, but there we go. the core goes right in the middle, and this is how you're supposed to do it. So you can get the best edge retention and everything. And it also just looks very nice. You know, you can see the centering of the core on both sides is really, really good. I don't think it can get any better than this. Unless you got, some sort of sand mine that's already perfectly aligned on both sides. This is, having the core centered is just really awesome for me. And speaking of on this view, if you notice, it's fat on in the middle. On the tip it thins out, but on this edge also thins out. Another cool touch, and why it is so refined. It's like Lee has thought of everything. When he built this knife, even these lines that are thicker and then it tapers down. And okay, also on the lock bar, notice how if you look at newer makers, the lock bar cutout will just be a rectangle, like I guess an L shape. Just go straight up and straight across. Check this one out. You have that little, groove, curved, no straight lines. It's always curved. Look at, the detail, the gap of how it swerves around, and how the lock bar also has this is the type of detail that really makes the knife special. When you don't have anything that's just, square and doesn't fit the knife, this curves very nicely with the frame. Now check out the pocket clip. It's got hidden hardware, and then two sides which are heavily contoured. Very nice, easily pocketable, and it's a hexagon if you look at on this side. Very nicely shaped on the butt end of the pocket clip. Again, very nice touch. Centering, of course, spot on. I've been playing with it a lot, and I think now we can talk about the action. The action is very crisp. The only flaw that I can see on this knife so far is actually the flipper tab. The jimping is very, very good, but on the sides, on the tip, these two sides, they're actually quite sharp, and they dig into your finger quite a lot. If you get something from Lee, you must tell him, please, round these corners off. If you want, you can take, I don't know if you would want to, but you can take something and like a very fine file, like almost like a strop stone, and just very lightly, round these edges off. Or you can just have him do it, because that thing is painful. So that's one con that I found on the whole knife. The two super sharp things are the edge. Oh yeah, speaking of the edge, is a laser edge. I actually didn't expect a laser edge or edge on the tip of the knife, because it's always been more on the art knife realm for me. Especially with the Hydra. The reason I chose the Sigma is because it's more EDC friendly, more tactical. So, but I didn't expect the blade to cut so well, but this one does. It cuts really well. So props to Lee for that. Plunge grind also, just perfect. Oh, I forgot to mention the inlay on the on the flipper tab. But there's another one. Just awesome. Okay, lock release, easy, no stick at all. The blade does not drop shut, but it's got a really distinct sound when you close it especially. It feels like two magnets sucking in together. I'll try to do it close to the camera. I think it can be a bit hard to hear on camera, but it's like two magnets just go zoop, that sound, which I've never heard on a, folder before. The opening action is like very crisp. So that's really fun. It's super smooth. There's zero hiccup anywhere on the blade. It just doesn't drop shut because I think the pivot tension is quite strong. So here, I try to shake it down just so you can see what kind of resistance there is. But yeah, super solid, no, it holds in the blade very well. No play anywhere, rock solid. So yeah, functionally, so far at least, as I've only had it for a week, and I try to play with it as much as I can just to see, does it come off center, does it, does the action change? But it's just perfect. I flipped it thousands of times already, so full confidence on this. So yeah, if someone orders like a user type Sigma 6, you can be confident that this is a really, really good knife. Ergonomics, amazing. It tapers off at the butt end, but it's fine because it's quite thickened on the top. It carries really well because the tip is slim. So when it's in your pocket, it actually doesn't feel as thick as like this part because this is like inside and this is more on the top. And it slims down, so it feels not too big in the pocket. So yeah, I forgot to mention 3.5-inch blade, so it's not that large. It's a hefty knife, I think around, I'm not sure. I don't want to put the wrong information, but you can probably find it on websites. But I'd guess maybe definitely over 4 ounces, maybe around 5. Maybe a little bit more, but because I don't think he puts in, there's no milling pockets inside, so it is quite heavy for this 3.5-inch blade size. He also signed inside here, but can't get it to show on camera. It's not a very good angle, but basically on this edge, you might be able to see it a little bit. And then on the top edge, there's like the date of the knife, number 229, I believe. I have to look off camera here. 229. Yep, Lee Lerman. It has the year, 2023. So yeah, overall, really amazing build. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect and I didn't want to put my hopes up too high after waiting so long, but here it is. It's super solid knife, really awesome build. He's essentially, I think, perfected his craft, and he only makes 2 models of folders, so he has time to perfect the tuning of the action and the way the model works, everything. There's also, before I go, there's a lock bar. I guess, what do you call it again? It's the over travel stop hidden inside in the lock bar as well, so you don't have to be afraid of, over travel. And yeah, overall, amazing knife. Oh, and you can see the frame is so highly polished that if you look between the grooves, it looks like Damascus because it's actually reflecting from the blade down onto the frame. Yeah, another cool touch. All right, I'll leave it at here. Thank you guys for watching. Catch you later.